Anyway, I got another email here.
Ridiculous.
From Eric from Pittsburgh. Hello, Jim and Brian. And this is something we got to discuss here. This is the state of affairs these days. Jim and Brian, you often wonder if the general public knows who the stars of wrestling are these days. We talk about this all the time. In the old days, depending on the part of the country, everybody knew who their local wrestling star was. Even if you didn't watch wrestling on TV or go to the shows, you recognized the names. They were in the paper, they were on TV, they were live, it was everywhere. Crusher in Milwaukee, or fucking Lawler in Memphis, or the Von Erichs in Dallas, whatever the case.
Hey,
right?
Like we recently talked about on the show, Johnny Powers in Cleveland.
Johnny Powers in Cleveland. And it was, so whatever the time period, Bruno in New York. And people overlook the fact that just because everybody in New York City didn't go to wrestling or watch wrestling on television, you couldn't escape for a period of 10 or 15 years there, hearing or seeing Bruno Sammartino's name on the TV news or in the newspaper or just around. So on the marquee at Madison Square Garden, how many people see that in the course of a day? So you knew the names, right? And then with the national expansion, everybody in the 80s knew Hulk Hogan. Most people knew Ric Flair. And in the Attitude Era, if you mention Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Undertaker, chances are a lot of people would know, right? But we say today, who are the stars? Or is anybody aware? So Eric from Pittsburgh continues. In Pittsburgh, there is a morning radio show where they ask general questions to the public, and a pool of about 8 to 10 people see if they can answer them correctly or incorrectly. Questions can range from, can you name a Mark Twain book, to name 3 songs sung by Elton John. Well, that would be difficult. But the question of, can you name any of the last 10 WWE champions came up. Guess what the answers were, Brian? If you had to say what a pool of 8 to 10 normal people, what did they answer to the questions? Can you name any of the last 10 WWE champions?
You want me to guess names?
Well, what do you think they said?
The Rock, John Cena, Triple H, Hulk Hogan, David Arquette, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart.
Okay, we get the point. They said The Rock, Hulk Hogan, and Goldberg.
See?
Not one person could name one of the last 10 WWE champions. And then the radio station, the perpetrator of the contest, then listed the 10 names for the people. Ed, would you like to hear some of the comments?
Yeah.
Roman Reigns. It was a unanimous who was everybody's response. Brock Lesnar. Oh, yeah, I forgot he came back. Bobby Lashley. The comment was he the dude that was with Trump and shaved Vince McMahon's head?
Yeah, well, the answer is yes. You got it.
Yes, 15 years ago. Big E. The quote was, he sounds like an order of French fries. After pulling up a picture of him, someone said they named this guy Big E. Did anybody get fired for that? The Miz. Somebody said, oh yeah, I think he's the star of the company. He was against John Cena at WrestleMania and The Rock interfered. I don't think I've watched a match since then. And a side note, the guy who thought The Miz was the star of the company has never heard the name of Roman Reigns. Drew McIntyre. Quote, never heard of him. Randy Orton. Quote, he's still around? How old is he? Kofi Kingston. Quote, he became a champion?
Wow.
Daniel Bryan. People didn't know his name, but everyone knew the yes chant with the finger pointing in the air. And lastly, the number 10. last 10 WWE champions, AJ Styles. And the quote here is, there is no quote because nobody knew the answer to that. Nobody knew poor AJ.
Yeah, they saw the hair. They said Billy Ray Cyrus.
So Eric continues his thought, or concludes his thought. If this is any indication, the answer as to if anyone can name these champions would be a resounding no. The general public is completely unaware of who the wrestling stars are these days. I think it's worse than people thinking it's silly is not even being thought of anymore. What are your thoughts on this? He says. Well, yes, actually, now come to think of it, nobody knows the boys anymore. And so it's almost kind of now, Vince's comment always was he wanted guys that turn head in airports. Or turn heads in airports.
Turn head. I want paralegals that turn head.
Turn head or give head, or he wanted people that turns the heads in the airports. Maybe there's something to that. But then again, Roman Reigns turns heads in airports, one would think, a striking, voluptuous fellow like that. But then if he turns the head, they go, oh, who's that big fucking guy? He looks great. Somebody ought to put him on television, make a star out of him. What do you think, Brian? It's an ever decreasing audience of us that still really want to be involved in supporting or enjoying or acting in or whatever this little world of ours, and we're shrinking.
Well, plus, I mean, you have to be able to get over and you have to be able to be a star. When you watch Raw, the way the show is formatted, the idea WWE wants the company to be the star, not the wrestlers, there isn't a breakaway performer. Hulk Hogan stood out from the pack. He just did. Steve Austin clearly stood out from the pack. Cena did. A lot of that was the way he was used, but he was used like a star. And he's, moreover, maybe as a star today than ever before because of that. But who did they treat like that? Who?
Roman Reigns, the guy that
Roman Reigns is it?
Who? He's doing a great job.
He's doing a great job on the one show that airs Friday nights every week. And I know it has more viewers than Raw, but it's a Friday night show. If you're someone who's just going to casually catch wrestling, that's the show you're going to catch? He's not even on Raw.
Brock's there. Sometimes people have forgotten he came back. They're pushing Cody like a star. We've talked about this. They're going back to the old WWF and Vince McMahon playbook and actually pushing him like a star. Everything's positive, presenting him as bigger than life. Hopefully that'll work. But they didn't even mention Cody's name. Do you think anybody remembers Cody's around or knows Cody, who the fuck Cody is? AJ Styles has had more big time TV over the last 5 years than Cody. And they met him with a resounding who? I know it's not scientific, but that's,
there are very few people, but there are very few people, if you look at WWE or AEW, that you watch and you think this person has the chance to even, because it's not like you can just put any wrestler in that spot, it'll work. It has to be the right person too. There are very few people that you could see getting over to a general public beyond just wrestling like that. MJF's about to do a movie. I mean, it's a Von Erich movie, so we'll see how much attention it gets. That's one of those few guys that whenever you see him interviewed seems to kind of get it. Roman Reigns, like you said, completely agree. But like Seth Rollins, Cody right now, just because I think depends on how he's going to be used for a little while, these guys just aren't like Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre was in the main event of 2 WrestleManias in a row? Does he feel like that today? They don't know how to make a star and make it stick.
COVID put his career on a ventilator. They changed all the shit that was supposed to be his year, but I don't I mean, I'm seeing what I'm seeing, and he's a great looking guy and a great talent and size and everything, but there's not the thing. There's not the thing that the 90s brought about not only the last vestiges of the territory stars that had all that experience and knew what they were doing, but also an amazing influx of the last group of guys that got into the wrestling business to get in the wrestling business, think about it the right way, before it became Holiday on Ice and a fucking ring. And boy, that era of talent's hard to follow now.
Plus, also, every single person we've talked about, the names grew, but it starts somewhere. You know, it starts in Pittsburgh and it grows from there. It starts in Cleveland and it grows from there. Now it's just you're on a national stage. Here's the amount of time you get. So there isn't anyone who really grows locally and becomes a local name. Like when you see, I think it was Rey Mysterio recently they did a show in San Diego. You could tell there's probably a good chance outside of wrestling fans, if you live in that area, maybe he's a wrestler you've heard of because he's a local guy. But there aren't too many cases like that, it seems like, anymore.
Well, plus when the guys go home now, instead of running for mayor, they hide. They stay out of the spotlight. I got enough of that. Lawler was on every billboard in fucking Memphis 30 years. Anyway.